Hi, my name's Sam and I'm a creative producer and project manager based in Coventry, working with a team called Creative Giants. Creative Giants are currently working with Coventry City Council as place curators on their public realm and public art interventions in the lead up to City of Culture, setting the stage for what is set to be a really exciting year of activity in the year to come. We were asked by the team at Warwickshire County Council to have a look at the Warwickshire Art Challenge project, which they had got some money from the LEP and also some revenue funding for. After an initial period of consultation and reviewing a series of sites across the county, we came up with the Warwickshire Our Spaces Project. We're really excited by the opportunity to work with early career and established artists to create 8 new unique installations across the county. So initially the project was to look at how we encourage the public safely back into public spaces such as towns and green spaces. So across the county we've looked at several different sites and we've got a good mix of some town centre locations and also some park spaces too. And the idea was that through creativity we could help reinvigorate some of these public spaces, and there was an idea of creating opportunities for local artists to work in the public realm in ways that they haven't before. Now, we wanted to make sure that the project that we came up with instilled community confidence, not just in a passive way, but also in a way that actually meant that people could meaningfully engage with the things that we were creating. So the brief that we were given, we interpreted under 8 different headings, and these were community confidence. So the project model will instill confidence in a more meaningful way than a passive way. Vitality and vibrancy, so making sure that the objects add to the spaces and not just become something that blends into the background. Experiential moments, so more than just inert objects and things that, in traditional public art, things that you might see like a sculpture or a mural on a wall. We wanted to create something that people could interact with. Identity and pride. It was important that some of these locations feel that then this isn't artwork that's just being dropped in. We're making it with the communities and working with local artists too, to really celebrate the identity, the evolving identity of these towns and locations. We also wanted the works to be playful and active, encouraging people to be outside and physically in space. And it was important for the project that they have some local artist development. The public realm, it can be quite a complex space for artists to navigate, and Creative Giants' role is very much about amplifying local artists and encouraging them to work in new and exciting ways. It was also to create some art tourism across the county in relation to the City of Culture in Coventry, where we've been working as place curators for the City Council, as well as leading into the Commonwealth. So we wanted to make sure that across the north and south of the county that there is a real connectivity between these pieces, so that during that period of heightened Warwickshire and Coventry engagement, we are encouraging people to travel around the county. And finally, that there is some legacy. So where possible, we've tried to link these locations and the projects with some strategic work that is already happening across the county. So for example, in Nuneaton and Bedworth, we're looking at the transforming Nuneaton and the visioning for Bedworth. In some of the parks in the north of the county, we're also looking at the community engagement and the visioning for those spaces as well. And in the south of the county, we're looking at spaces like the River Corridor project in Stratford. So in order for these spaces to have connectivity across the entire county when we're dealing with such diverse locations, we decided that we needed to have some underpinning narratives. Now these fall under 4 headings. The first is a public survey. Now, whilst we would have liked to have done some really deep and meaningful engagement with the local communities in each of the locations, because of the short timeline on the project and the spread of the spaces, we felt that the easiest way to understand the narratives of each of these sites was a playful public survey, which is due to be launched very soon. The other 3 narratives are quite broad and vague, and each of the sites will have their own site-specific brief, but we wanted them to be connected by the feel and the narrative. So the first is connecting green and urban space. The majority of these sites are either in town centres or parks, And lots of the vision of these town centre spaces is to reintroduce greens directly into the town centre streets. Also, some of them being green spaces, there was this feeling of wanting to connect the green and the urban, and it also deals with current themes such as sustainability and our environment. As we travelled across the different towns on our first site visit, it was clear that some of them had really strong identities in terms of their heritage, such as the Hatting and George Eliot in Nuneaton, and then Shakespeare in Stratford. But in terms of the local community identity, it wasn't always necessarily clear what the modern and evolving narratives were. So it was felt that we needed to really encourage a brief for each town and location that in some way weaves a new or evolving narrative for that space. And then finally, community voice. We want there to be an opportunity for these spaces, these installations, to have an evolving feel to them. They're not just static artworks. They're somewhere that the community can gather, that perhaps there is a performance space or there is space for play there, so that there is a platform for future voice in each of these spaces. So the project that we came up with was some social hubs or functional street interventions. Like I said, we want them to be spaces that people can interact with each other and can come and dwell. So when we talk about functional street intervention, we're essentially talking about an artist or a creative design piece of furniture that allows some sort of passive functionality, which might be cover, it could be seating, but essentially it is an installation that has the form or the visual appeal over perhaps the function, but it is still useful in the space in some way. So essentially we're creating 8 opportunities for 8 artists that have a connection to Warwickshire to design these installations. And we're going to support them through a period of development to have them fabricated and installed on each of these sites. So we want the designs to be quite playful. It's important that they're perhaps not considered playable, so they're not parks necessarily or children's playthings. Across the county, the audience for these is meant to be quite broad. Some of the sites are more specific in terms of who they're trying to engage with. So Stratford, for example, we're looking at working with the Youth Council. But for the most part, these are meant to engage with audience of all ages, shapes and sizes. We also want all of them to have some sort of planting and greening element, so we'll be working closely with the local parks and community to make sure that these are maintained and looked after. We also felt that the Britain in Bloom was really strong across the county, so we want to create future opportunities for more planting in each of these spaces. And finally, the passive functionality. So in some of the locations, we're looking at potentially replacing some of the benches or existing bins and cycle racks. So wherever possible, we will incorporate those elements into the brief to make sure that each of the spaces maintains their use. However, it is very much the fundamental things that we all need. So somewhere to sit, somewhere to get cover, perhaps, some more planting and a nice space to be in. So in terms of how the project works, we are currently out for tender. We're looking for artists to submit an expression of interest to us that they want to be involved in the project. We're specifically looking to support artists that have a connection to Warwickshire, and where possible looking to get a good mix of established and early career artists that perhaps haven't worked in the public realm before. So the sites that we've been looking at, like I said, they are some of them are park spaces, some of them are town centre spaces, and a few of them are still in the process of being decided, but we're nearly confirmed on all 8 sites. In terms of the benefits of this project, it can tie in with some of the urban and green spaces strategies that are happening across the county. It can also be a testing point for some of the future public realm and public art strategies that are in the pipeline as well. It can create community confidence, encouraging people back out into public spaces after a long period of lockdown, as well as remaining a COVID-safe project because we are making sure that we consider social distancing in each of the designs as we develop them. It also supports the local cultural ecology as well. Like I said, we're looking to support local creatives on this project. We've been very broad and open in terms of the expression of interest application process, and we're making sure that we remove any barriers that some artists face when applying to projects such as this. We've got a robust team in place that can make sure that any artists that are earlier in their career or perhaps haven't worked in the public realm before will be able to deliver a piece of work that is suitable and safe for the public realm. In terms of the local creatives, we're being quite broad in this sense, and we're not, and when I say artists, I'm not just talking necessarily about artists in the fine art sense, but perhaps designers, architects, illustrators, anybody that is interested in creating physical things for the public realm. So each of these installations will become a future asset for each town. This is a capital project, so they are intended to be installed for longer than 12 months, and the life cycle is probably going to be 2 to 3 years, which could be longer with a suitable maintenance plan. There are some risks and considerations that we need to take into account for this project, one of them significantly being that we are trying to deliver this within a short period of time. So it's really key for us that we get buy-in from all of the people that this video reaches as soon as possible. Please do get in touch if you have any questions about this project, or if you would like to talk to us about how this can benefit other projects that you're working on across the county. If you do have any questions for us, the contact details will be attached to this video. You can get in touch with us directly at Creative Giants, or you can get in touch with the contact at Warwickshire County Council, Audrey Brown.